this is really stunning and exciting. Some of the people who previously supported Trump, who you would expect to support Trump, are abandoning him. And I want to give you a few different examples, and we'll look at some data on this. But first, this is a fun sort of breaking news thing. You have 200 prominent Republican leaders coming out and saying, we support Harris. So this is example one, but we have a lot to look at.
This morning, more than 200 Republicans who previously worked for former Presidents George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush, and or former Senators John McCain and Mitt Romney, they signed a letter backing Vice President Harris for president. The list includes former chiefs of staff, press secretaries, campaign managers, interns. There are some interns on the list as well.
So you have more than 200 Republican leaders coming out, endorsing, as you heard there, Vice President Kamala Harris, including a highly decorated retired four-star general who has never endorsed a presidential candidate before. They said, quote, another 4 years of Donald Trump's chaotic leadership, this time focused on advancing the dangerous goals of Project 2025, will hurt real everyday people and weaken our sacred institutions. This is not normal. People who used to be either supportive of Trump, many people who worked in his administration, or supportive of Republicans saying, I don't do this. I don't support Democrats. This feels weird, but we got to do it here. And then this reminded me of Trump's base, people you expect him to have in the bag, are actually leaving him in droves, as was shown by this reporting.
So, Harry, we know, obviously, you look at the overall polls, you see these swing state polls, the ones over the weekend from Siena did stand out. We'll see if that's really where this goes. But you found something very interesting in terms of one group that stands out.
White working class voters, white voters without a college degree. That is Donald Trump's core group. That was the reason why he was able to break down that giant blue wall, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, in the Great Lakes. And look at their support now versus where we were a few months ago when the matchup was between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Look, Donald Trump still leads, but look at that margin. It has shrunk significantly. It was 25 points back in May. It is now 14 points now here in August, nearly been sliced by half. Those numbers that Harris is putting up amongst that group right now are actually slightly better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago amongst those voters in those key states. Those are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up in order to win. And of course, Joe Biden.
Look at this. Look at this. That's a crazy swing. Trump was up 25 points among non-college educated white voters in battleground states. Now he's up just 14 points. I said this last time we talked about that particular stat, but Kamala Harris doesn't have to tie or be leading in that particular demographic to win. She just needs to eat away at some of Trump's lead among that group. That's Trump's base right there. And for that type of swing to happen, you're having people who previously said unsupportive of Trump in these polls, who are now swinging over and saying, you know what, I'm going to give Harris a chance. Something's pretty compelling. Now, what other group is notably prominently for Republicans often, and strangely, given who Trump is, for Trump? Evangelicals, right? And in that population of people, Kamala Harris is making inroads.
Since Kamala Harris stepped in to become the Democrat nominee for president, she's enjoyed a wave of positive poll numbers and huge crowds at rallies. If she's to carry that momentum into the fall, however, tapping into the Christian vote could potentially take her to the White House.
The Bible teaches us so much about what we must do to be dutiful. Understanding we have a duty to our God and to one another.
Raised as a Baptist in San Francisco, Harris's faith is rooted in what is commonly known as the social justice gospel. This human rights approach centers more on Jesus' teaching of compassion for those less fortunate rather than a fundamentalist viewpoint. The quest to promote that message to Christian voters is well underway.
Vice President Kamala Harris is a fellow Christian.
The group Evangelicals for Harris hosted a Zoom call this month that drew tens of thousands. The founder, Reverend Jim Ball, the former head of a Christian environmental organization, says the group plans to reach beyond a progressive audience.
We're trying to reach out to as many conservative folks as we can.
You are?
Yeah, we try to reach out to websites that are highly visited by Trump supporters, by so-called...
And it continues, but let's go ahead and get to one of my takeaways about this, and then we'll go through some more stuff. I think you're in a really bad place if you're the Trump campaign. If you're caught spending too much time appealing to your base as the base or the tent of the other side gets bigger and bigger. And it takes courage, it does, but it's what needs to be done in this moment to reach out to people who might be a little bit hostile to you, or you're worried they could be, or it feels like they might not be of a group or of a walk of life or whatever that traditionally would vote for you in significant numbers. But what the Harris campaign's doing, and surrogates for the campaign, like the gentleman you saw represented there, is saying, I'm going to go into the communities, I'm going to go into the spaces where maybe the one reason they don't think they support Harris is because they haven't heard her message. And in some cases, like the stat you saw with how many non-college educated white voters in the battleground states are now supporting Harris, in some cases it can be effective. And it's more uncomfortable than just getting your base really charged up and excited, but it has much bigger returns. And one thing I've gone back to a few times is Chris Christie says that based on what he knows about Trump, when Trump gets really uncomfortable and feels like he's losing, he goes back to strategic-less pandering to his base. Desperate Trump just goes back to the racist attacks, the sexist attacks against Kamala Harris. That's why he's been so ineffective lately. Whenever he feels more comfortable and he feels like he's leading, then he'll take political advice about how to widen the tent. But he's not doing that. But the Harris campaign is, and it's showing. One thing that was a big hope, I want to circle back to this, for the Trump campaign. They were excited about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. endorsing. This could be the thing that changes it. It actually seems like, while it is a significant decision, we're watching how it's going to impact things, especially battleground state polling, which we don't yet have. But in a general sense, as Nate Silver demonstrated here, it looks like of the RFK Jr. vote, you are seeing those people who previously supported him now jumping over to either Harris or Trump, obviously, because he's taking himself out of the race. But essentially an equal share is going to Harris as Trump. And so it's not working the way that the Trump campaign would have hoped. Obviously, right now, looking at the real clear politics polling average on a national level, Harris now has a 1.5 percentage point lead, which you can see is a lot of progress. A lot of progress from when she originally jumped into the race. The really exciting thing is we haven't seen a DNC bump yet. And so once we see that, hopefully we'll have something even more significant in terms of a lead. Now, this show's community is rapidly growing, and I'm so grateful for that every day. If you want to make sure that you're part of that, check to make sure you clicked the subscribe button. Easy, free, simple. It makes all the difference. I appreciate it. Back to the video. As just another example, since we're talking about people who normally support Trump, jumping ship, fleeing over to Kamala Harris, one of Trump's allies, Kari Lake, just got a similar bit of news. So you might remember at that bizarre event where Trump told the guy to get off stage, the Arizona Police Association president was that guy. Well, in Arizona, the Arizona Police Association has endorsed Trump for president. That's unfortunate, but they're MAGA in who they're endorsing, at least. But this same association is endorsing Kari Lake's opponent, Ruben Gallego. Here's the letter. The Arizona Police Association endorses Ruben Gallego for U.S. Senate. Today, the Arizona Police Association, the largest police and public safety association in the state, representing thousands of active law enforcement officers, proudly announces its endorsement of Representative Ruben Gallego to represent Arizona in the United States Senate. So a massive blow to Kari Lake's campaign. And then if you look at on the ground what's going on, this is always good. good. The 2024 presidential campaign infrastructure comparison is shown. I won't go through all the specifics, but the point is you have a lot more on the ground energy and infrastructure on the Democratic side than Republican. Field staff, 1,500 in the swing states for Harris versus 300 for Trump. Volunteers, 400,000 for Harris, 14,000 for Trump. And then the fundraising we've discussed, of course, extensively. Total in 2024, every time I read this, I laugh because it doesn't seem real. $540 million for the Harris campaign, and for Trump, $264 million, which is a lot traditionally, but compared to Harris's, not so much. I give that to you because, one, it's interesting to see groups that previously supported Trump, or you would assume they were going to support Trump, supporting Harris. That could be consequential. That probably is why we're seeing the poll numbers we're seeing. But also to give you some hope on this Tuesday. And then I need to make sure we keep coming back to, still, we're not in a comfortable spot, okay? We want a lead, a comfortable lead by Election Day. So a lot of work to be done. Make yourself one of those 400,000 plus volunteers, or contribute by clicking the link in the description of this video to Harris's campaign. Let's keep our foot on the gas pedal until Election Day. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments. If you want to support this show and get access to members-only content, you can do so by clicking the join button below.